church benches and into the trenches. Let's make a righteous ruckus.
Hey, welcome back. If this is your returning voyage to the Righteous Ruckus podcast, if it's your first time, welcome. I'm your host, Riley Lowe, and today I want to get into what will destroy you. Interesting. You say, tantalizing, Riley. I'm piqued. My interest is piqued. What do I do now? Well, keep listening. So, I want to start off with you guys. There's a a big name pastor named Mark Driscoll. He made waves here a while back for kind of rebuking a church or like a little service or I don't know what it was, kind of like a little workshop thing that he spoke at. I honestly agreed with what he said, but anyway, he said something profound the other day that kind of led me to this. I don't follow everything that he says by any means. I just happened across this, and I'm glad that I did. I want to kind of talk about that, and then I want to get into some. I don't know why I'm still wearing my headphones. Let me take those off. But I was. If you're watching, you'll see the headphones come off. But in any event, so I want to talk about what Mark Driscoll said, and then I want to talk about a couple Bible verses, and then the application. Of course, this is going to be very application driven. It's not going to really be story driven like most of the podcasts are. If you like that it's not story driven, great. If you don't like that, let me know as well. I'd appreciate it if you email me or comment on the video if you're watching or wherever you're finding this. Just let me know somehow. If you know my phone number, then text me and let me know or give me a call. Anyway, so I want to get in here. This is what he said. Mark Driscoll said, "It's very unlikely that what you hate will destroy you. It's what you love and enjoy that will destroy you. You need to have dominion over your desires." Dominion over your desires. I'm going to read that one more time just so you guys will catch on there. It's very unlikely that what you hate will destroy you. It's what you love and enjoy that will destroy you. You need to have dominion over your desires. Mark Driscoll. Think about it this way. If, I'm not a fan of like Brussels sprouts, right? I'm not a fan of Brussels sprouts. It's very unlikely that Brussels sprouts are going to destroy me. It's more likely that eating too much pizza would destroy me. You see what I mean? That's a little bit of the application there, but I want to talk about a couple of verses here. Let's get into James. I love James. James chapter 1, verses 12 through 15. "Blessed is the man who endures temptation. For when he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life, which the Lord has promised to those who love him. Let no one say when he is tempted, 'I am tempted by God.' For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he himself tempt anyone. But each one is tempted when he is drawn away by his own desires and enticed." That's where the sin nature comes in, right? "Then, when desire is conceived, it gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death." Right? That's a really good synopsis, that verse 15 there, of what Mark Driscoll said, right? "Then when desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death." Wow. All right, so there's a lot there. Notice when he says, when desire has conceived. So desire is conceived. It's almost like that's almost a word that would elicit like somebody being pregnant, right? Or something along those lines. If if like, let's say you have, I mean, we all do this, right? You think, oh boy, you see the new iPhone commercial and you think, man, that'd be cool to get a new iPhone. And you're like, well, I mean, mine's still working. Maybe I don't need to drop, $1,500 on a new iPhone whenever I don't have that kind of money. Well, if, desire, if I was to sit there and dwell on it, right? Not just a thought of, hey, that'd be cool, but desire when it has conceived. In other words, it's just sitting there and it's festering, right? And then it's conceived and it gives birth to sin. In other words, it just starts consuming you. It's like a virus or an illness, right? A bacteria that's gets in there. Like, think about like a staph infection or something. We all have staph on our skin. I don't know if you realize that the staph bacteria is on there by skin, but if it gets deep down under your skin and it gets in there and it gets to an infection, it can fester. It conceives in your skin. It's conceived in there. I mean, that's just an illustration or a transliteration or whatever you want to say, but it's in there and then it starts festering, right? I think festering is a really good word there. And then before long, you'll be like, man, that spot's kind of bugging me. What's going on there? And before you know it, you got to get, stuff taken care of and some antibiotics, severe antibiotics, depending on how bad the infection is. And if you don't take care of it and you can continue to ignore the symptoms of it, then it can bring forth death. I was talking to somebody the other day about an infection that I had before, and she was asking me about it, and she's like, MRSA, and I was like, no, it's similar to that. Anyway, I've gotten into it before on this podcast, but think about something like MRSA, it can bring forth death if it's not addressed immediately and severely. If it's not addressed severely, you don't play around with something like that. Sin is the same way. It's just a culmination of your fleshly desires, right? So let's look at Galatians. Galatians 5:19 through 26. Now the works of the flesh are evident, which are adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, idolatry, sorcery, hatred, contentions, jealousies, outbursts of wrath, selfish ambitions, dissensions, heresies, envy, murders, drunkenness, revelries, and the like, of which I tell you beforehand, just as I told you in time past, that those who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. But the fruit of the Spirit, this is a very popular verse here, but that part that I just read is not as popular because it talks about all the stuff that's bad and evil, right? But this is what you should exhibit in your life, or this is the fruit of what you should be exhibiting in your life. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Think about that list juxtaposed to that list of of works of the flesh. Works of the flesh are all those other things I talked about. This is the fruit of the Spirit. Those are opposites, right? They're opposites. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. And those who are in Christ, or who are Christ, have crucified the flesh. In other words, to crucify the part of your body that's commits those other things. With its passions and desires. Remember, desire, there's desire again. Desire and passions. Desire is what conceives sin, and sin, full grown, brings forth death. All right? If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, provoking one another, envying one another. All right? So think about that first list. What I want you to think about this is think about in today's culture, the culture of the world, even a lot of this stuff has crept into to churches, to church services, to things acceptable by churches. Think about things, even things I know. I mean, I can talk ad nauseum about this with a lot of people, but it's my convictions here. It's things like yoga, right? That's a worship of an Eastern religion, all right? You can tear me up in the comments if you want, but why not just do stretches, exercise stretches instead of actually doing something called yoga? Maybe it's semantics, maybe it's not. Think about like crystals and tarot card and the even back when we used to have newspapers, the horoscope in the newspapers, that sort of thing. That's sorcery, right? But think about that list. Think about what's acceptable today in society in general, especially in the United States where I live. Think about it. I'm going to go over this now. The works of the flesh. Works of the flesh. This is the stuff we do not want, right? Adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, idolatry, sorcery, hatred, contentions, jealousies, outbursts of wrath, selfish ambitions, dissensions, heresies, envy, murders, drunkenness, revelries, and the like. You may think through that list, and you're like, man, murders. Wow, that's kind of out there. I mean, the rest of the list, yeah, that's really prevalent. But is murder really prevalent in today's society? I don't know. You can get online and order an abortion pill in all 50 states and perform an abortion at home. There's 0 states where abortion, aka murder, infanticide, is illegal. I live in Oklahoma. I would say over 95% of Oklahomans are convinced that abortion is illegal in this state, and that's just not the case. They celebrated it. The powers that be, the legislators, they all high-fived each other and talked about how wonderful job they've outlawed abortion while allowing women, mothers, to kill their own babies. So how is abortion outlawed? I don't see that it's outlawed at all because it's perfectly legal to kill your own baby. So that's murder there. And what I want to point to is how much. I mean, man, you go through that list, works of the flesh, and it is rampant in today's culture. All of those things are so rampant. And if you were to gauge yourself by today's culture, you would really, if that all those desires, that's what the world promises you, right? That's what the world, you'd go down that road and do all those things, and life is good and things are going to be well for you. And that's the way of the world, right? The enticement. All right. There's oh my goodness, I don't remember now. I think it's a proverb, talks about the seductress and her lips dripping with honey and all this stuff, but she leads to death, right? And let's look here, something I got written down here as a note is that sin does not cease being sin just because it becomes popular, right? All that list is popular today. You turn on all the popular shows, it's just filth and cussing and popular songs. It's just, and it only progresses to get worse and worse and worse. But yet it's all those things like, oh, this is good. This is all they're trying to do is entice you. Just the other day, this blew my mind is I happened to be on Facebook and there was an ad for Planned Parenthood. Why Planned Parenthood would send an ad my direction, why the algorithm would send an ad my direction, I do not know, but they did. So I happened to see it. I'm like, what in the world? And this was right before Valentine's Day. And it was talking about, it said what did it say? Self-pleasure is self-care. And it showed like a cartoon version of a woman laying on a bed, and she had these adult toys, in air quotes, next to her on a bed. And I'm just like, seriously? And there's a bunch of teenagers and a bunch of women that might be lonely, on Valentine's Day that are seeing that ad, and they're taking that first step. They're dipping the toe in to fleshly desires that is going to end up with adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, all that sort of thing that's going to end up with them becoming pregnant and going to Planned Parenthood to do the murder, right? To do the murder, or ordering pills to do the murder. And so that's another wrinkle, if you will, in sin when it is full grown brings forth death. You say, oh yeah, that's not a big deal. Just that innocent ad, right? They seeing that, but that will lead. That's like an organization like Planned Parenthood. That's their whole goal, is to end up with that leading to something that they could kill and make money off of, because that's what they want to do. They want to make money, and that would be the love of money. But anyway, so what you may be thinking, okay, if you made it this far, you're probably asking yourself, well, Riley, what do we do? What can we do to protect ourselves from this? Well, the first thing you should do, I would suggest, or one of the first things, there's no particular order here, but get in the Word of God. Get right here. Get right here. In these pages, you will find the tools and the mindset and the guidance necessary to bear the fruit of the Spirit instead of the works of the flesh. Right? There's, fast. That's another one. Fasting, that's a big one. That's something, man, I was so good at it, and I've actually drifted away from fasting. I was fasting once a week, and what I need to do, this is just me pep talking myself out loud here, is to look at fasting as an opportunity to worship, an opportunity to make the flesh weak and increase the realization or the power or the inclination to have the fruit of the Spirit. To think of it as, like as fertilizer for the fruit tree, the fruit of the Spirit, right? Think of that as, I need to fast more, man. I need to do it. I just need to get off the sidelines and do it more, and not think of it as such a burden, and think of it as a chance, as an opportunity to worship God and to enjoy some of the fruit of the Spirit, and to be able to focus on that. You know what I mean? Evangelist John Piper, he once said, the absence of fasting in our lives is the measure of contentment with the absence of Christ in our lives. I'm going to read that again, because that's huge. The absence of fasting in our lives is the measure of contentment with the absence of Christ in our lives. I guess you could kind of put it this way. I've used this phrase multiple times, and I love this phrase. A lot of people do this, and I've seen people do it all over the place. And you can see that with people that are just kind of going with the flow. They're in this laissez-faire culture to where they can just do whatever you want, right? Just do whatever makes you happy, do whatever makes you feel good. And they think, getting right with God, that's something I can do at the end of my life, even though you have no idea when the end of your life is. So I suggest, instead of just living however you want and then getting right with God there at the end, you may or may not have that chance. For one thing, you're taking an eternal risk there. But how about getting as close as you can to God now, and then doing whatever you want? You got the freedom to do whatever you want. You get as close to God as you want, as you possibly can right now. That includes the fasting, includes praying. Pray without ceasing, because the enemy prays, prey, without ceasing. All right. So the thing is, the whatever you do, whatever you want part is drastically different on the do whatever you want before Christ, and then get close to God, find God at the end, find religion, whatever you want to call it. That do whatever you want is completely different when you juxtapose that with the after I've gotten as close to God as possible, then do whatever you want, because your desires are going to be the desires that get you and keep you close to God. So, I mean, I think it's pivotal and imperative with this day and age, with the way our culture is. Like I said before, it seems like everybody's just taking this sigh of relief. At least most of the Christians that I know, since the president election, right? The election since Donald Trump has taken office in January of this year, 2025. Everybody's like, oh, we get a reprieve, a 4-year reprieve. And everybody thinks that's a great opportunity to sit back and do nothing for 4 years until they got to fight again. No, you should take this opportunity to gain as much ground while the enemy is on their heels as possible. And if we gain enough ground, and you individually, if you can, the more of, in Galatians there, that list, the more of the fruit of the Spirit and the less and less and less of the works of the flesh are evident in your life. If right now the works of the flesh are what everybody sees when they look at your life, trust me, I've been there. There was a time in my life where there was actually, I was in, somewhat of a transition right when I got saved, or right before I got saved. And I'm like, man, I got so many people that would see me as a good kid and see me. And then so many people that would be like, man, this guy is really living it up, right? This is the party guy. That's got to shift to where nobody recognizes the works of the flesh in your life. Nobody sees evidence of those, and everybody sees the fruit of the Spirit. That's the goal. That's the goal, is that the fruit of the Spirit is the only thing evident in your life. And if we all do enough of that, and then that becomes evident to the people around us, it becomes contagious, right? People want what you have, and you can explain it. It gives you a chance to witness to them, gives you a chance to create more residents in heaven, and ultimately, hopefully, when we get there, we'll find out. But we got to do our very best to make heaven crowded.